this sort of a good old saying out there is that the first time you reach out to somebody, don't ask for money. And so it's really important that you start building these relationships now because, I've heard on just the podcast you've had with so many of these people already that they get really annoyed if the first time you reach out, it's just like, hi, look at me, give me all your money, right? You have to build relationships. And I hear so many times, right, people say, right, you bet on the jockey, not on the horse. And so they want to get to know you, the founder. And I think that's so important. And so there's people like that. You interviewed Daniel with Habitat, who's amazing. He's really good about getting back too. So it's really about building trust with the founders.
Welcome, everybody. On today's episode, you're going to hear about the event of the year. We have launched the biggest event in our history. It's called Founders and Funders. We designed this because it's so hard for early stage brands to not just raise money, but even know who are the actual active early stage VCs currently writing checks. So that's what this event is all about. We are gathering the top brands and investors of the year all in one room. I'm so excited for you to hear all about it today from our fundraising and finance lead, Hannah Dittman, as well as one of the brands who was already selected to attend. It's Simon from Huxley. I want to give a big thank you to our title sponsor, DOS, for making this whole thing possible. They're so supportive of the big bets that we are taking to support the ops and finance people and founders all over the country. Really, thank you so much to them. They're an adaptive ERP. Check them out. I also want to thank some of our amazing partners who have jumped in as co-sponsors. We've got Rowe, our business banking partner, Giannuzzi Lewinden. They are a super top tier CPG law firm. And Carrie, you know them as a high caliber flavor house and ingredients company. Really, thank you so much to all of these guys. We could not do this without you. So here we go. Get ready to hear all about how we've designed this incredible event, the absolute stellar VCs who are coming, and you'll hear what brands are going to get out of it. All the good stuff. All right, hold on to your seats. Here we go. And if you want to apply, visit f&f.startupcpg.com. That link is in the show notes. Good luck, everybody. All right, welcome everyone to the Startup CPG podcast. Today is a special episode because what we wanted to do was really just talk about an incredible event that is coming up. And as we talk more about it, you're going to understand why I think it is so special. The event, Founders and Funders. So this is the first time we're launching this event, but it definitely will not be the last. So December 11th in New York City, we are bringing together pretty much every relevant early stage investor and the top early brands of the year for a jubilee, an all-day networking and matchmaking event where the goal here is we're really hoping that a lot of deals come out of this. Anyone who is in our Slack channel who follows us on Eventbrite, has been to our events, understands the impact that we're making with our grocery run event series. This is where we do events in the market with their most relevant retailers, and so many brands are getting distribution deals done because of it. We looked at the investor scene, and it's just so hard for early brands to even know who the investors are, especially the ones that really write checks for early stage brands, pre-seed, seed, maybe even up to Series A. And so we know who they are because we've done that research, and it turns out that they're all pretty happy to get into a room and discover the most amazing emerging brands. So this is what's going on this December in New York City. Unfortunately, we cannot have absolutely every brand there that we would like. So it is going to be a competitive process, honestly, to get into this event. But for the brands that are ready for this kind of an opportunity, that get to be there, we anticipate it being one of the most impactful events that's ever happened, honestly, in this industry, the emerging brand ecosystem. So I'm really excited about it. There are a lot of people who have helped us make it happen. I definitely, Daniel at Habitat Partners was really instrumental in just helping us understand the landscape and design for how to make this a truly productive event. And I would also like to introduce everybody, Hannah from my team, who has really been responsible for a lot of the actual design. Yes, Hannah, do you want to just maybe start off with an intro? Probably a lot of people know you from our podcasts already, but please.
Yeah, it's so weird being on this side of the table. But yes, hello, I'm Hannah. I do finance and operations content with Startup CPG, and really excited to be part of the ecosystem and part of this event. We're all really passionate about it on our side and know how crazy impactful it will be for not just brands, but for investors as well. It's unlike any other event that's out there, unlike any other conference or trade show or anything else that's going on. So I think it's going to be a super exciting day. And I'm really excited to see what brands end up making the cut.
Hannah, can you tell everyone a little about your VC background? Because you know more about this world than most people on our team.
You always give me so much credit. You're so kind. Yeah, I spent a lot of my earlier career in the growth equity space in consumer specifically, both on the management consulting due diligence side as well as on the investing side. So I've been across pretty much every sector in CPG. I love CPG. Yeah, I've done a lot of different diligence processes, spent a lot of time in the beauty personal care space as well prior to hopping over the operations side. So I think there's a lot that brands will learn on the panels, a lot that investors will learn from the brands coming as well. And I think, in terms of fundraising, what a better way to cut down the legwork time and the hustle and bustle for founders that've got a million other things going on than to do something like this.
I love it. Hannah, we are so lucky to have you on our team because we don't know about this world. And you do. You worked as an investor for a long time. And I can't even tell everybody how helpful Hannah has been, especially because we take the content really seriously. We want it to be an amazing event for the brands, for the VCs. We want them all to come back next year. If we can have the same lineup next year, it's going to be amazing. And so, it's really important for us just to have an incredible, thoughtful day. Next, I'm really excited to introduce everybody to Simon Solis-Cohen, one of our favorite founders and products in the community, has just absolutely blasted off over the last year, especially. Simon, do you mind just quickly introducing yourself and your product?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me back, Daniel. Yeah, I'm Simon Solis-Cohen. I'm the founder of Huxley. We are a better for you energy drink. And our idea is really to reimagine what an energy drink can be. We feel that it can be delicious and it can be made with real ingredients that consumers recognize and that they can trust. And so what makes it really different is a few things. We use all natural, real ingredients. We boost the caffeine with electrolytes, so there's a hydration component to it. And it's made with real fruit juice, so it has that delicious taste. Everything we do is all about flavor.
And everybody can check out more info on Huxley with the episode that we did with Simon a while back. And one of the things I'll never forget from it is just learning about Simon's background, really as a wine guy. And when you learn about that and his palate and ability to taste things and really develop it, you'll understand why the product tastes so good right out of the gate. It's a very hard thing to get something that good that early on, especially for somebody who isn't like a repeat CPG founder working with a big flavor house, that kind of stuff. So congrats to Simon on that. So just getting into a little bit more about this event, and I'll come back to you, Simon, in a bit because we're so excited that you'll be one of the brands joining us for it. So Hannah, you've worked in this space a lot. I would love to talk to you a little bit more about how we've designed this event because I'm really proud of it. So first of all, could you give everyone a little bit of an overview of who are these VCs that are coming? What have we gone for here? What are the kind of VCs that are actually going to show up in New York on December 11th?
Yeah, I think we've got kind of the best of the best in the room. There's going to be around 50 plus investors, which is just a huge ratio of investor to brand founder. First of all, if you go to a conference, I'm sure there's a handful of investors at every trade show and conference, but with 1,000 brands or whatever there, you may never get the chance to interact. So I think just the ratio in itself is very impressive. The group that the team and Daniel have assembled is awesome. It's number one, people actively writing it checks and actively investing. I mean, I'm sure everyone in the founder seat has had the experience where you're networking, you're spending a bunch of time with people and then find out their fund isn't even closed. They're not writing checks, whatever may be happening. So that's definitely not the case here. These are really active, consumer focused investors. Again, not someone you'll get into a conversation with and then they'll be like, oh, by consumer, we mean consumer tech or consumer AI. These are products focused investors and consumer business focused investors across different stages. Some touching pre-revenue that early, all the way up to, like Daniel said earlier, around Series A plus. So a huge breadth of great investor horsepower at this event, focused across the different sectors in consumer as well. So we've got food and bev investors, personal care, pet, home. The portfolios of these investors are really impressive. A lot of really, really standout logos on on their portfolio sheets. So I think it is definitely kind of like Cinderella's ball. It's the opportunity to find the perfect match and to really get in the room with all the right people without having to question if you're even talking to the right person. I know better than anyone, investors love to schmooze and market themselves. So it's great to have that vetted a little bit so that brands can really feel confident that it's going to be a productive day for them.
I really like that perspective. And yes, first of all, we are avoiding any quote unquote investors. Even they're like, sometimes you meet these people at trade shows and they're like, yeah, I'm an investor, and they got a badge. But it really seems like more of a social thing for them, and they aren't really writing checks now. But or there are even a lot of people I've met who sort of are running around under the guise of having a fund, but they don't really, and they're actually trying to sell you some service. It's crazy. And then on the other side, you have those VCs out there that are very active, but they are only writing checks for 20 million revenue kind of brands, even bigger. And we all know who they are. That is not what this is. I am so proud we have gotten pretty much every single early stage active institutional VC fund committed to coming to this event. Hannah, are there, because you also started doing really cool podcast interviews with some of these funders, because we want everyone to know who they are and also know a little bit about them, so that when you come to pitch them, you come correct. You know what they're doing, their outlook, the kind of stuff that they think about, their investment hypotheses, or whatever those VC terms are. Can you just talk about maybe even a couple of the VCs that you're especially excited about specifically who are going to be there?
Yeah, I think we're trying to hustle and get as many podcast episodes with all these VCs out this year as possible, so that there's a ton of content out there for you guys to learn from ahead of this event, or if you're not going to this event, to still learn from. But yeah, I'm really excited about a number of them. I think a few that we featured on the podcast recently, Collaborative Fund will be there. They were investors in Daily Harvest, Blue Bottle, Magic Spoon, Olipop. They've got tons of powerhouse logos on their portfolio list. They really are thoughtful investors with big operating backgrounds, and did a great job outlining their investment process on our recent podcast episode with them. Simple Food Ventures is another one. They were investors in Bellywell, Orabora, Botchans. They have a really big grocery retail distribution focus and kind of actively participate in door rollouts post-investment and have a really unique lens going for them.
That's a pretty interesting one, right? Because they also
Mhm.
they talk about their relationship with Safeway Albertsons, and how they'll even show buyers there the deal before they decide to do it, because they want to know if it's going to get in
And it's
to
so
big
smart.
doors.
I
Yeah.
mean, looping in retailers as part of your diligence process is definitely, I think, a big bonus to do, and who knows it better than a retail buyer, whether you're going to get into retail. So
Yes. If
yeah,
that's your journey. It's not for
if that's your
everybody to
journey.
get into Safe
Yes.
Albertsons, but if it is, that's a good place
Yes.
to test it.
Yeah, and then kind of we've got some kind of newer funds coming as well. Super Angel Fund, founded by Ben Zeisis. We have an upcoming podcast episode with him. I'm really excited to chat with him. But they were investors in Brightland, Caraway, most recently Man Cereal. That's a really interesting fund that's kind of been built up brick by brick, originally through smaller angel investing, and now running a larger investment vehicle. So a big hustle on the investor side and a little bit more of a founder-esque journey for him. So I think that's really cool. And he has a track record of also backing founders first check in. So I think understands the plight or the journey of the founder as well a little bit more. But yeah, there's I could list off so many: Midnight Venture Partners, BFG Partners, Coefficient Capital, First Look Ventures. I mean, if you just look at our logo sheet of who's coming, you'll probably see at least 5+ that have been on your radar or your to-do list to try to get in touch with. So I think founders are in for a really special treat with the attendee list here.
Simon, how do you look at it? Because you are interested in fundraising. You obviously have a lot of experience in this already, and you're thinking about it. How do you look at this kind of a lineup of VCs? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, it's pretty insane. And I just want to start by saying thank you. Because like this is literally unreal what is about to happen. And to your point, like you all do so much amazing programming around like the grocery runs and getting in front of the retailers, but we all know none of this works unless we have money to pay for all of our crazy ideas. So being able to put this together and this lineup is insane. For us, we're, not at a point where we've taken any, institutional money. It's not something even today we want to do. It's something that we want to do in the future, probably, maybe next year we'll start looking at that as necessary. And, this sort of a good old saying out there is that the first time you reach out to somebody, don't ask for money. And so it's really important that you start building these relationships now because, I've heard on just the podcast you've had with so many of these people already, that they get really annoyed if the first time you reach out, it's just like, hi, look at me, give me all your money, right? You have to build relationships. And I hear so many times, right, people say, right, you bet on the jockey, not on the horse. And so they want to get to know you, the founder. And I think that's so important. And a cold email can only go so far. Let's be really honest, and there's some who are fantastic. I'll give a shout out to Molly at Springdale Ventures because she actually does respond to pretty much every single cold email, even if it's a fit or not. And so there's people like that. You interviewed Daniel with Habitat, who's amazing. He's really good about getting back too. But just to be able to get that FaceTime, I think is so crucial to building that relationship with these people, because at an early stage, like, let's all be honest, none of us have, $10 million in revenue. If we did, we'd be at a different stage. So it's really about building trust with the founders.
We'll be right back.
I've always wondered about QR codes. Who's scanning them? How impactful are they? But now there's actually a really cool new research report from our partners at Unicode. You know what's wild? In this report, you can see 74% of shoppers say they'll scan a QR code during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but only 37% of marketers think that those campaigns actually worked. That's a big gap. And they also found that most brands focus on where to place the QR codes just to get the scan, but then they forget to optimize what happens after the scan. Marketers, fellow data nerds, you won't be disappointed. There's so much to learn in this report. Like, shoppers want value fast. 56% of shoppers said they expect discounts when they scan, like automatically applied discounts with a quick checkout or instant reviews. And you can check out who scans those QR codes, demographic insights, purchase likelihood, and learn how effectively they've been used in campaigns. So, when you use QR codes during Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaigns, make sure they are working as hard as your offers. Check out all the insights in the full free report. It's in the show notes, but it's www.unicode.com/BFCMCPG. That's www.unicode.com/BFCMCPG. I like those points a lot. Yeah. And people always say, like, yeah, for the first one, if you want money, reach out for advice. If you want advice, reach out for money. Right. And we hear that from a lot of investors too. They're like, yeah, the worst thing is the first time I hear from a founder, they're like, hello, I'm fundraising and I also need a decision by the end of this week. If you want to get in on it, you got to let me know. Right. We're like, what? Just like, hold on a second. So I love the idea. And that's great. I think for you, even, thinking about raising in 2026, this should be perfect timing for you just to start building those relationships, establishing trust with the VCs and, really understanding who could potentially even be a fit. So you're not just out there kind of machine gun blasting your pitch deck all over the place, but really making some very concerted efforts with people who could be a really good fit, you for them and them for you. So Hannah, I wanted to come back to you and talk a little bit more about what our actual plan for the day is, because we want stuff to happen and we're very thoughtful about it. And really, I want everyone out there to know we all come from the brand side and we are thinking about that very heavily when we design any one of our events. And that's why if you ever see me up on a panel, probably I'm going to try to get a bunch of brands to stand up in the audience and start shouting out their pitches. Because, we know what you guys want and need: attention and, real opportunities to get one-on-one with people. And so first, I'll just start with the event design. And then, Hannah, I would love to talk to you a little bit about the specific panels that we're going to do. But so I want everyone to know we've got basically the 50 VCs. We're going to cap it right around there. They're all signing up, providing a lot of information about who they are, which is all going to be accessible to all the brands. And then once the brands are all locked in as well, we will have a one-pager on every single brand. And this is something we're going to share with all the VCs well in advance of the day. And it's going to have all of that information that you can imagine on there about you and your brand and early traction evidence that the VCs are going to want to see and what kind of products you have, all that good stuff. they're going to get sent this huge deck with all the different brands, and they're going to be able to then go through and say, great, of these, here are the 10 that I want to actually meet with at the show. So we'll be facilitating the one-on-one meetings with the VCs who are most interested in specific brands at the show via, let's say, 10-minute meetings. They're going to be fast and furious, but it's enough to establish that first point of contact with them, have them really understand you and the product, while also leaving plenty of time for them and for you for the general networking and panels that are actually happening at the event. So that's one way that we're really trying to make sure that the right people find each other at the event. You don't have to wonder if it's like a huge trade show. Are they even going to see your booth or know who you are? Are you going to see them? Everyone's going to get that opportunity. And the other thing that I'm really, really excited about are great panels. Me in general, honestly, I'm not a huge panel guy. Like, I don't go to a lot of them. I'm going to go to every single one of these. So Hannah, you have been absolutely instrumental in putting these panels together. Do you mind just talking a little bit about what are these topics? What are we going to be talking about during the day? What are people going to get out of it?
Yes, super excited about the panels as well. Content geek over here, so I'm excited about that. Our first, we've got, I think, around 7 total panels. Our first one is going to kick off with top deals of 2025. I think this is a really interesting one because it gives the investors in the room or on the panel a way to kind of highlight a portfolio company and use them as a case study. I think the more tangible examples founders and other people get, the more accessible the learning is. I think especially as running businesses, I think everyone knows storytelling and what happened to other people that you kind of pick up nuggets from and apply to your own journey. So I think we'll get a lot of really cool, interesting nuggets from that, and also an understanding of, what resonated in that company's pitch. Why did you decide to invest in them? What does the post-investment relationship look like? What were the funds used for? What key milestones is the brand now working towards? I think all hyper top of mind information if you're about to embark on a serious fundraising journey, especially if it's your first one. Our second panel is what's in and what's out. It's kind of like a fresh take from investors on trends, fads, category shifts that they are noticing and where they're placing their bets. I think, this will be a really interesting current landscape view of what's going on in consumer across the different sectors and different channels. And I think a really interesting way to think about how to position yourself when you're having these conversations, or what might be coming down the pipe, or what might be an interesting nugget for you to kind of like play into a little bit more as a brand. And a great way for other VCs to know how their peers are thinking about things as well. Panel 3 is a checklist for investment criteria, so evaluation criteria for brands and founders. I think this will be really, really interesting and tangible. Target metrics, rationale, differences by category, a really good understanding of if there was a perfect straight A report card for a business of the top criteria that someone would be looking at, what are the things that need to get ticked off? And I think that's a really helpful North Star. It won't always be applicable for everyone, but I think that's a really helpful North Star to at least kind of know, hey, I'm really far ahead on this one, or maybe I need to work a little bit more there, or have a narrative for why my metric is that metric.
I'm excited about that one, especially because, I think you would just assume like, oh, it's probably the same for all of them. It's really not. They actually they care about really different things, and it might be much heavier on the founder, or it might be much heavier on the total addressable market. And it's really cool to, especially because these are such hot funds that are coming, to understand specifically with each of them, like, oh, that's what's important to you. Okay, it's like, I'm not going to change my whole business based off your criteria, but it also helps you understand who you should be talking to that might find your brand the most interesting. Simon, what do you think? That one sounds pretty cool to you?
Yeah, no, I think so, because I mean, in the conversations I've, had with some of, these folks who are going to be coming, and as I said, trying to start relationships early, and nurture those, is that you're totally right, right? So, we're in beverage, and let's just say out loud the quiet part. Energy drinks are dang competitive. I can't tell you, there are many funds who have just simply said, you seem cool, your product seems cool, we don't touch energy. We don't care who you are, what it is, too competitive, right? And so to your point, I like what you said earlier, Dan, about matchmaking, because I think that's going to be really important here because you have to find people who have the same appetite you do, right? So for some, funds, that's fine. It's energy is not going to be a fit. There's others we're talking to where maybe it will be, right? When we get to the point and we'll find out. And so I see on this list already, I know some that are interested in beverage because I've looked them up and seen what they've invested in. So that's really important to understand like what they value and also what's important. Some people really, to your point, are going to be obsessed with margins. And hey, if you don't have this margin, I won't talk to you no matter who you are. Or maybe it's route to market. So it is really important to understand that about each of these funds.
So interesting. And they're really different. I was just talking to a pretty early VC. Probably they're even like a little small to be at this event that we're talking about. But he was telling me like, yeah, I have to have brands with good margins because these are my first couple investments and it just has to look that way. Like I only have these 2 bets. It just has to be that way. I can't take a flyer on a brand that I love that doesn't have great margins. Whereas other VCs may have really different views on that and understand, like maybe because they were operators, they know what margins really look like at the early stage and understand how much better they get once you actually get that volume that you're looking for and even potentially get acquired by a big CPG and it comes all the way down, right? So yeah, super pumped about that. Okay, Hannah, hit us with some more panels.
Yeah, sorry, I'm like down into it deep. But yeah, going off of what you guys said as well, there is no investor school that all these investors graduate from. They learn from experience. It's a very apprenticeship model industry. So if you got bit really bad during a time in the market by X, Y, and Z, you have a little angina from that and you're kind of like allergic to it for a while, or you had a really great experience with X, Y, and Z and you felt like you really learned a lot about it and you've kind of honed your expertise there, you feel a lot more willing to lean forward and take bets. So, this is a people business investing, and you're dealing with people that have their own biases and thoughts and whatever coming into their mindset with. So that's, I
That's
think,
so funny that you say it. It makes me think about dating as well, because I feel like a
yes,
lot of people, they get out of a relationship and they're like, whatever was wrong in that last one, that's what I don't want. And this next thing, that's what I'm going to
yes,
prioritize is not that thing. They can't have that fatal flaw that that person had, and I'll compromise on the rest. Like,
1000%. I mean, I think the best learning is when things don't work out. And I think the postmortem, understanding what went wrong and applying it is, I think, a huge portion of investing, especially on the earlier side. On the later stage side, everything needs to be a hit. There can be no mistakes. On the earlier side, not everything's going to work out super well. It's a higher volume strategy. So you're learning a lot from both ends of your spectrum constantly, and that's part of the name of the game. So I think that's also why this will be a really interesting event for investors as well, because to learn from a huge cohort of your current peer set in a dynamic changing market that just came out of COVID and markets were down and are kind of reopening up, it's a really interesting time to get some thought partnership on a lot of different things that might change the way you're investing as well. Kind of going off of that, panel 4 will be real talk on margins. And we had founders in mind on this one too in the back, kind of what Daniel was saying earlier. VCs have their takes on what margin should be or what they like to see. Some of that might be just intuition. Some of that might be driven by what model returns they need to see or whatever it might be. And then I think operators understand that in different stages of your business, different categories, different channels, that might be different as well. So we'll be bringing together both perspectives and digging into margins and expectations and what you need to do to turn profitable, which is something I think everyone has top of mind. And then panel 5 is kind of flipping the script on things. I feel like in these dynamics, I've said it before on the podcast, I feel like the power dynamics can be so skewed in fundraising. It's kind of like everyone trying to date like the really popular person, and then it's like tons of options for them or something like that. So I think it's really important to know that the fundraising part is kind of where the dynamics are the most skewed, but then over time, it's the founder's responsibility to be really successful in the end. So vetting the partner that you're working with, is really important. So panel 5 will be how to vet a VC, and thinking through the questions that founders should be asking potential investors. What should they be evaluating? Where could it go wrong down the road? And what should they kind of be on the lookout for in the diligence process to have their own kind of diligence experience as well? It's like what they always say when you're interviewing for a job. You want to make sure that there's a good culture fit for the firm. And I think that goes for the investing investor relationship as well. And then another really exciting panel that I think will be interesting perspective, we'll bring in some law firm legal expertise here too, is deal term 101. I think this can be such a black box for so many founders, especially people who haven't fundraised before. And you want to always feel like you're in a position of knowledge and strength, especially when you're doing something as serious as giving away or selling a portion of your company. So this is really meant to empower everyone on understanding what typical deal dynamics are, what should they be mentally preparing in their mind to discuss, valuation ranges, check sizes, scaling expectation, holding periods, terms, all the legalese that seems overwhelming maybe a little bit, but is so hugely important, especially down the road when you have your massive successful exit. You want to make sure that all the dynamics were in place for that to be a fair partnership for you.
We'll be right back.
Are you going to crush it on Amazon this year? It's such an important channel, but it's so hard to do alone, and most agencies are a total ripoff. We can't afford $5,000 a month and a commission on our sales. They just don't get it. That's why I love our partners at Daybreak. They are full service, meaning they do the creative work, the listings, the logistics, and of course, all the ads, all with the most reasonable retainer out there. I work with them personally. I'm so grateful we have such a good partner to recommend out to you, our community. They do evaluate your product first to see if it might be a fit. So if you want them to have a look, email them, startupcpg@daybreak.agency, and they'll do a free audit for you. Good luck, everyone. It is so hard to raise money these days, or really even know what VCs actually invest in early stage brands. But good news, we are bringing all those early stage investors together. I am so pleased to announce Startup CPG's Founders and Funders, powered by our friends at DOS. It's happening December 11th in New York City, and it will be totally unforgettable. We'll have the top 50 early stage VCs, meaning the ones really writing checks for pre-seed and seed stage brands, and we're pulling them together with the top 100 brands of the year. There are going to be amazing panels, one-on-one matchmaking, and tons of networking opportunities. If you know anything about us, you know what a ridiculous opportunity this is going to be, so I really recommend getting your application in early. The website to submit is in the show notes. It's f&f.startupcpg.com. Good luck. That one I'm super excited about. You could also call it like ways you could get screwed. And
Yes.
trust me, the people writing the checks know about all of these things, and they'll put terms in there and you just don't understand because you haven't been through it before. You don't know all of the things that you should care about now. And so, who does know are the lawyers. They know it pretty well because they're usually the ones writing all this stuff into the contract. So, everyone's coming together for the spirit of this, which is, let's just lay it out all on the table. Here are all the things you really should know about and what you should care about. And then, you're never going to get perfect deal terms, obviously, from everybody, but it helps you understand what could really be a priority for you and the watch outs, especially because there's so many people who are raising for the first time, doing these deals for the first time. So we want the information balance not to be too lopsided, right?
1,000%. A mentor of mine once told me, wielding knowledge exclusively as power when the knowledge is inconsistent across parties is such a negative. And I don't think anyone in the room would ever be a malicious investor. Hopefully the vetting process weeded out any of the bad actors. But I do think, people don't know what you don't know. And it's kind of like when you're buying a house for the first time. If you're not prepared to ask the questions that you would need to ask, I don't know if anyone is going to go out of their way to make sure, hey, are you asking every single little question that you want to ask? So it's definitely an empowering panel.
I hope so as well. But I mean, I also have had conversations with VCs. I would call them more the quote unquote investors who will brag about some crappy deal term they got across or some valuation that just like really wasn't even fair. They're like bragging about it, and it honestly makes me sick. So like it's your responsibility to know what deal you're signing and what might be important, because I mean, I do kind of agree with you, though. I think VCs in this space, honestly, if they just were after the craziest returns out there, they probably wouldn't be around early stage CPG investing. And I think most of us who do this for a living also kind of appreciate that. Like Simon could be doing a lot of things with his life. He's super passionate about doing this, and he's doing great at it. Most of us, I think, who are in this early stage CPG game do it because we love it, not because it's absolutely the most amount of money that we could make of all the options that we have out there, right? And so I have to
Preach.
believe that, right? Yeah, a lot of the VCs are in the same boat. Some of them are some of the loveliest people out there. They're incredibly smart people. I actually I always forget this, and then we'll do a webinar with VCs or a podcast, and it's just so good because they really are. It's very competitive to become a VC. Like in my business school, that was the hardest job to get. There were only X number of VC jobs, even nationally, each year. And so it really is just some of the sharpest people in the world were getting those jobs. So they're smart people and, hopefully in general, good people, but they also have a responsibility to their investors. And we obviously have all read about so many of these instances of companies getting taken away from the founder when the investors thought it was the right thing to do. So for somebody like me who is just so supportive of founders and founder first, it's really hard to see that stuff. But you need to know what you're signing when you take these deals, because the day you sign that first deal and give up some of the company, you're now an employee of that company. It's not just your company anymore. You work for people, and including yourself, but other people. So I really like for everybody to be very open-eyed going into all that stuff, and great to have that rosy view of everybody and the investors in the world, but also be smart and know what's going on, right?
Yeah,
For
I'll jump
sure.
in and say that, no, that's a panel I'm most excited about. I see that. So we actually work already with the law firm that's going to be hosting that, Janusz Luden, and they're the best in the business. So I'm just going to give a quick testimonial to like, this is something that, if you're a founder coming, like take this panel seriously. They're not cheap. They're the best in the business. So to be able to get, a lecture where they're going to probably give away tons of invaluable advice, that might be the best thing you take away from this, actually. So I do want to bring that up, because to Daniel's point, that once you start raising money, and you start signing these contracts, let's be honest, I don't know many founders who are legal experts, right? I'm certainly not. And so you have to trust smarter people than yourself to do this. And it's really hard and it's really tricky. And I think I agree that, like, I don't think that there's necessarily, at least in the group that's coming here, predatory people, but they do exist out there in this. And the last thing you want is to spend your time, your money, your dream, and have it taken away from you because of deal terms that are, not favorable. Or even when it's not that extreme, I think it's important you know what you're signing. It's important that you know what you're giving away, and that there's certain rights you have and certain rights that the investors have. And, the best relationships are all about setting expectations and negotiating, whether it's a contract for, a deal, or a contract for, just being in a retailer, right? It's the same idea. As expectation setting is the number one most important thing. And that's what that document's going to be. So whether you're just doing a safe note or you're doing actual equity, it's important that well, are they checking my books every quarter? Is that the right I'm giving them? Are they going to have a board seat? Are they going to have power to make decisions or to recommend people that we hire or not, or how I run my business? And so being able to get that advice and hear how this works, because I think for me, that's the most intimidating part of the process, is that, when I'm being presented with something that's, hey, you need to make a decision on this legal document, it's like, but I don't even know what it means. So how do you even make a decision? So I'm so excited and happy that you're working with them for this panel.
Yeah, I feel like that all such valuable point of view and definitely insight. I feel like setting the relationship up for success is what makes you really excited to close the deal and hustle your little butt off to do everything that you just said you were going to do. So you want to feel super motivated once that contract is signed. And I think that's a great way to feel like really confident that you got what was fair, and everyone is happy around the table, and that's a great way to start a partnership. The closing panel, I think, will also be a really interesting testimonial. It's a founder keynote, which I'm sure Daniel can share a little bit more on here too. But it's the founder of Orabora, who will be kind of speaking about the story of starting, scaling, and exiting their brand. I think, like I said earlier, tangible case study examples is so great to learn from. And I think someone who's been through the whole journey on the founder side of the experience will be a really interesting learning for founders and investors alike to kind of see intimately inside what that experience was like for someone recently.
Yeah, and I'm so excited about this one. Paul was really the first person that I went to once we started putting the panels together. Anyone who is a longtime listener of this podcast has heard his episodes. They're some of the best ones we've ever had. Paul has such great perspective, and he is just so relevant. He sold his business at the beginning of this year. He is really open about how he spent 50% of his time, the whole time as a founder, fundraising. And so, he just has so many learnings from doing that, the things that went well, the mistakes that he made along the way. And his advice for founders is incredible. So I'm really excited for everybody to get to just come and learn from all the experience that he has. It's so relatable. This is not like, the founder of Siete who just made $1 billion. It's also not somebody who hasn't been through it. This is somebody who is like all of us, has gone through this and just extracts so many learnings from this. I'm always so impressed at just his vision, like how he sees the whole CPG industry, having really gone through all these steps and scaled. So I'm super excited about that, and really, really grateful that Paul is willing to make the trip to come and speak with everybody. So it's going to be so great. And as we kind of wrap up here, I'm just so excited for our future around connecting brands with investors. And this is not going to be the only thing that we do. I think we're really trying to gear up and figure out how do we actually make better connections with brands, because we know what a pain point fundraising is, and we want to do this, and not just with this one event. We want to do this at events around the country. And so stay tuned for a lot more on that front. Hannah's going to be doing tons of great interviews on the podcast, and we have some really cool events in store as well that'll bring people closer to investors, even in their local markets. Simon, I was just curious, are there, of the VCs that are coming, are there any where you're like, whoa, that's a big get, that's a really interesting one. I didn't know them super well, but I'm really curious to meet them.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's nothing but straight bangers. I mean, this is just solid lineup. I mean, I think there's some sleepers in here people might not know about, right? I'll shout out Humble Growth. Those guys are amazing. I've gotten to know them a little bit. Nick Giannuzzi, who, started that. I mean, dude's a legend. Helped broker some of, through legal expert, some of the biggest deals in CPG history. And I feel like maybe some people might not know that about them, so that's really exciting. But yeah, I mean, I'm just looking through this list, like Melitas, Rakana, Midnight. I mean, these are all amazing VCs who write real checks to real companies like us, and you look at their portfolios and you see these companies and these big logos, like you mentioned, Hannah, but you have to remember, they all started like us, these are all entrepreneur, founder-led companies. And I think that perspective is really important. And I know at least look, we all want money. We all need money. That's necessary to run our businesses. And let's be honest, guys, it's a slog. It is hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And so it can certainly be really discouraging being out there, sending cold emails, sending cold LinkedIn's, calling people, just trying to get attention. So just to have them into the room, it's wait, hey, I'm that dude who's been annoying you on email. Hi, can we talk? There's a lot to be said for that. And I think that's what's going to be so powerful about this.
And I'm so glad we're socializing it early as well, because I feel like it really gives brands such a strong ground to stand on to really come their best, because they can listen to the podcast in advance. They can research these firms that's on our logo sheet and really have their hit list of who they want to talk to, or try to kind of preview it with them in advance, or whatever they need to do. I think founders are such overachievers, such great people, such hustlers, so intelligent. I think sometimes they just need a little bit of directive on the fundraising side to be able to execute at the level that they execute everything else at. So I'm really proud that we're such a wingman for these brands and bringing home the hype squad to assist, because I feel like the fundraising arena, it really needs it. There's a reason every single founder will say fundraising is the worst part of my job. It's so much time. It's so much work. So I think it's awesome that we're giving a helping hand.
I love it. I was like, oh yeah, I like that phrasing, like wingman for all the brands. That really is what we try to do. Damiano from Lupini calls us his co-founder without equity. We love that too. That's what we're all about. We are
That's
here
accurate.
yeah. And I mean, again, look, we've just spent this whole podcast just hyping up this event, and not everybody is going to get to go to it. We are expecting this to be the most competitive application process that we've ever had. And just for any brand who is not selected to be at Founders and Funders this year, I really am sorry, because we are here to help all of you guys. And we have so many opportunities where we can have way more people in our grocery runs. We really try to get as many people in there as possible. We have our Shelfies. It's the biggest free awards program in the industry. And anyone who sends a product in, we're going to try to feature your product at least in a story on our Instagram. Like, we really are always thinking about how to help everybody, but we do have limited capacity for these events, so it will be really competitive. And so with the application process, put your best foot forward. I would say the things that are most important are the question in the application form around traction, because that's what the VCs are going to want to see also, is like, I need proof points. What I don't want is like some farmer's market brand, I don't even know. Like, yeah, you think it's really innovative. I'm not so sure about that. What I do want to see, like, a really strong velocity story at your first couple of retailers, or a lot of growth, or some quotes from buyers that just make me believe this thing is absolutely going to take off, even though it's early stage right now. So, the kind of stuff, and just make sure you put your best foot forward as well. There is a elevator pitch video in there. So just, make sure you do a great job there, that this is what it's going to be like when you're actually pitching to the VCs at the event. And if you don't get in, there's always next year. We really see this as the premier early stage investing event, and we plan to run it often, at least on an annual basis, and just do so much more to bring you guys together with these investors. But we will have these other versions also that any brand that would like to can just attend. This just happens to be, it's a limited capacity. It's going to be a really special venue in Union Square in New York, a really gorgeous loft, great space for the panels, great space for the matchmaking, great space for the happy hour also. And so really excited for everyone to get to come and check it out. They'll get to have some incredible energy as well from Huxley.
Yep.
And I'm so excited. And I just want to say thank you again to Hannah for really leading the charge on what I think is going to be a super beautiful event, as well as all of our sponsors who have made this possible, because as you can imagine, this is actually quite a complex thing to put together and market effectively to everybody, and we can't do it without our sponsors. So thank you again to everybody who has come in to support us on this event.
Daniel, you're such a good founder. You're too humble, and you give your team all the credit. This has been an amazing project to be a part of, and definitely your brainchild. And I think you've really cultivated such an amazing network, and I'm so happy that it's being kind of utilized in this way. And I think you've done 90% of the work here at least. So I appreciate all the love, but I think I think anyone in the industry knows that Daniel's a huge advocate of brands and founders, and always is brainstorming new ways to help them, and this was definitely an exciting brainchild of his. So I think we're all super appreciative and glad to be part of the Startup CPG family.
Thank you, Hannah. We really, it's so great to have you on the team. So everybody, please get your applications in as soon as possible. If you know a brand that you think could be a really good fit, even if yours you feel like isn't at the right stage, please tell them about it. It's just going to be such a massive opportunity. I'd hate for anyone to miss out. Anybody who's considering raising in 2026. I always have to cover my bases. None of this is, investment advice. We're not advertising any investments here. This is a networking event that we're hoping people apply to. So nobody sue me. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you all at an upcoming event, if not this one specifically, and on our Slack. So thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Simon. And we will see you all soon.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you loved it, I would so appreciate it if you could leave us a review. You could do it right now. If you're an Apple Podcasts, you can scroll to the bottom of our Startup CPG podcast page and click on Write a Review. Leave your company name in there. I will try to read it out. If you're in Spotify, you can click on About and then the star rating icon. If you are a service provider that would like to appear on the Startup CPG podcast, you can email us at partnerships@startupcpg.com. Lastly, if you found yourself grooving along to the music, it is my band. You can visit our website and listen to more. It is superfantastics.com. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.